Okay, so good morning, everybody. Uh, okay, let me again share my screen. I hope you can appreciate my screen. Okay, so we will be discussing about the information age, Gutenberg to social media. Plus, we will discuss some issues about this social media. Okay, to start with, okay, uh, see, you have your so-called, if you compare the old technology and that of the present technology. Well, during old technology, you need to have your alarm clock, you need to have your calendar. But now, see the so-called the present technology, we just have these two important thing in our everyday life to be present. That is present in one gadget, which is the cell phone. In fact, all your schedules can be considered in that cell phone of yours. Another would be the old technology. You have your typical typewriter. Um, so you type certain materials in a so-called mimeograph uh, whatever material, and you start to mimeograph it for the production to enhance the production. But now, everything you do that in your computer, then connect that to a printer, and presto, you have your um, information that can be distributed to the rest of your maybe classmates, workmates, or any, or your group. Now, so to really discuss about all these things, let's just go a little. Let's backtrack a little in history, and it all started during the Babylonians, so the ancient Babylonian. So you have the Sumerian. They have a writing system that use photograph to represent certain words. That's about 300 at the so-called 3000 BC. Now, about 2900 BC, the Egyptians, the Greek ancient Egyptian, started they have their hieroglyphic writings already. Okay, so about 500 BC, uh, they also used the papyrus roll, and the Chinese, about 220 BC, they use small seal writing, and that by 100 BC, so 100 AD, um, the Chinese started using the wood block printing, and also the paper was invented in China. Okay, so now if we fast track a little, by year 1455, a, um, a German by the name of Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press using so-called movable metal type. Um, okay, so if history would tell us that as early as the early 1800, the Library of Congress was established, and see the Library of Congress established because there are now reading materials there, the books. No? At the same time, that's also at the same time that the so-called the carbon arc lamp has been discovered, was discovered so that see um, you can so any individual can read, can go through the library even um, even at any time of the day. So again, so let's just go for a little history, a little. Let's try to to know uh, Johann Gutenberg from 1400 to about 1468. He's a German blacksmith and a publisher. Born in Germany, he was known for the so-called invention of the movable type of printing press. Okay, so Gutenberg, uh, the parents they are uh, they have a agricultural estate. So uh, they are a little bit well off. And um, the notion of this printing press, Johann Gutenberg got it from the so-called press, the one they used to press or to squeeze or to extract the juice from the grapes that they are using. That's the same concept that John Gutenberg used in his so-called movable type of printing press. So, in such, there was the use of the different letters, and eventually, uh, we were able to come up with printed material. Okay, so such technology, which is the so-called the printing press, has the power to eventually transform society. In fact, such example, the invention of Gutenberg of the printing press is an example of how technology can transform the society. So, uh, most of the men of science now would consider would divide the so-called the world of information or the information world in a so-called pre-Gutenberg era or pre-Gutenberg world, the time before Gutenberg discovered the printing press, the so-called the Gutenberg era, and the post uh, Gutenberg era, or many would say it's the information age. So the pre-Gutenberg era, the printing press was not yet available. So most of the information then would only be processed in a so-called tedious manner. Uh, so either through uh, from the so-called uh, information can be transferred as from one person to the other through communication. Now, books during that time they are uh, written and produced manually in either clay or wax or a parchment or some papyrus. And see, during the pre-Gutenberg era, it's only the elite, the rich, those who can afford, um, can have access on all these books or written materials, written manuscript. Just the rich or the elite group of people. Okay. Then comes the Gutenberg era or the Gutenberg Revolution. During the time, this was heralded by the introduction of the printing with the printing press or the movable printing press, wherein during the Gutenberg Revolution, information could be passed to every individual. Though many are saying the, to access such printed material was then expensive, uh, uh, but then there were the books that were printed during the Gutenberg era. were mostly religious texts, religious books written in Latin. Most of the first book that has been printed during the Gutenberg era from the so-called religious text. But eventually, uh, during that Gutenberg era, the Gutenberg Revolution, there were also scientific and geographic discoveries uh, that were written during that time. Okay, so so the post Gutenberg era or the post Gutenberg world will now show us the so-called emergence of the internet and the so-called WWW, the World Wide Web, wherein the so-called uploading, downloading of all forms of information in the form of video, audio, and images has made things very easy with the use of the internet and with the so-called the World Wide Web. So in the post-Gutenberg era, the there is this post-Gutenberg era was heralded by the so-called emergence or the invention of computer and also that of internet. There is mass distribution of information uh, through online media, and uh, there is the so-called rise of the social networking sites. The are or because of the online media, and with such, you now have the some of the advertisers or some of the people in the advertising industry would know the so-called practice of crowdsourcing using the social network or the social media. So this post-Gutenberg era has been described as the so-called information age, the digital age, or the new media age, wherein there is a change from the so-called traditional industry to an economy based or to a yeah, economy based on information computerization. Thus, many would believe or many would say that the post-Gutenberg era is otherwise known as the information age, the digital age, or the new media age. So, with all these things, with all this um, uh, the discovery of the printing press and how it eventually uh, evolved to your so-called social media now, then we have to know a little of the different personality that would contribute in such the flourishing of such social media. Definitely, computers would play a very important role. And uh, it was Charles Babbage. He's an English mechanical engineer and is known as the father of computers. He was the first to design uh, certain a simple a machine for mathematical calculation and also simple decision making capabilities. But you see, during the time that computer designed by Babbage, um, they 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 fit in large room. Um, they provide this computer then provide um, information or data calculations and manipulation to the users. until eventually such large computer that would definitely fit a large room has been underwent series of innovations, um, and now we enjoy our typical laptop or an iPad, or technically your phone, your smartphone is a mini computer. Okay, now another another person which is noteworthy to now noteworthy for to be mentioned would be Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee is a British scientist who started the World Wide Web 1990. Uh, this homepage, the World Wide Web, uh, made by companies, business owners, or corporations in order to promote and to sell products. The concept then of the use of this World Wide Web is for these business owners, the companies, or even the corporations to promote and to sell their products. Then, um, by, by 1997, or sorry, as early as 1996, the Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they're the developer of Google. And it all started as a research project. Then eventually they registered the Google.com as a so-called search engine. Then this Google.com then they have variety of features, like there you can search for synonyms, word meanings. You can search for time zones, for maybe weather forecast. It's one of the highlight of such Google. Then even the sports, the so-called the scores in a typical sports match, like basketball, football, whatever, and some calculations. Okay, then the so-called the close competitor of Google um, was YouTube. Um, this was conceptualized by Chad Hurley and Steve Chen. In fact, uh, during the time 2000, uh, the YouTube is one of the so-called the largest online destination that has been visited by most of the so-called um, com- uh, internet users. So they registered the typical logo and the domain of YouTube in 2005. Then the Instagram. Instagram is these two men, Systrom and Krieger, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, started an application for fan photography. Uh, so they use such application uh, to enhance and to give style to to your pictures. You know? It's a user friendly application wherein you can upload your pictures then there, really as a fan photography app, fan photography. Okay, then then there is also the so-called the electronic mail or the email. Uh, Many saying that the email all started 1982, and in fact, um, most uh, some of the so-called uh, men or men of science would believe that it was the American Raymond Samuel Thomson who who implemented the first email program on the ARPANET system, which eventually um, this ARPANET system is the precursor to the internet. So ARPANET system is early as 1971. But then there is just this controversy that many would believe that it was the Indian-born American scientist and entrepreneur who started building the system as early as 1978. That is Shiva Ayyadurai. Okay, but then so much for the email or the electronic mail. Then, aside from the Instagram that you enjoy now, you also have the Twitter. The Twitter is a networking, yeah, it's a networking site created 2006 by Jack Dorsey, Noah Glass, Biz Stone, and Evan Williams. In Twitter, people would post and interact with messages or in terms of tweets. During that time, it was considered as the so-called the SMS of internet, just like meaning you use the internet for giving message, just texting, SMS, a short message. Um, so it was initially conceptualized as the SMS of internet, the Twitter. Then comes Facebook. The Facebook launched 2004 by the very famous Zuckerberg. Uh, he's a computer programmer and came up with a social networking website wherein your the people can upload their thoughts, ideas, experience, photos, and even videos in such website. In fact, this Facebook um, has been used for business transactions. Um, it can also be used to build certain relationship with other people, or it can also be a game, a source of game for a website game. So eventually now, everybody would have the so-called Facebook account. Now, attached to that Facebook account, there is also the Messenger. And the Messenger is the so-called instant messaging service, the SMS, SMS for the software application of the Facebook. Okay, so this Messenger was developed 4 years after the Facebook. That's about 2008. It's a Facebook chat. It's a messenger. The messaging service uh, was conceptualized 2010. So in the messenger, say you can send messages with or you can have some written messages, voice calls, voice uh, or whatever. So there can be a group conversation in the messenger. Okay. So this slide is a rather busy slide, wherein as you will notice, this will show us the so-called the timeline, the social media timeline. That it all started as early as 1997 with a short-lived social media site, the 6 Degrees. Then After which, by year 2000, you now have the Friendster. Uh, then, uh, then you have the Facebook, uh, even the LinkedIn during the 2000, up to there's also the Instagram. Then eventually the Google was so you have the Google. Uh, then uh, see at least now uh, there are about well there are many social media user and eventually at present the Facebook is now with the so-called is now trying to merge with the Creator Studio and with other business venture. Okay, so I remember the Twitter before is now known as the X. It has been bought by Elon Musk maybe a few years ago. So Twitter is now known as the X. Okay, so these are the timeline. This would be the timeline for the social media. Now, okay, so certain things that you have to at least know about social media. Social media would influence education. How? See, this access to social media would have the so-called um, easy access to education information, specifically on the internet. Mm. Uh, there is easy access on the so-called non-educational. There's also an easy access on the so-called non-educational information, like you have your fake news or your some of the pornographic materials. In the area of business, the use of the social media, the use of internet, there is the so-called easy promotion of products, wherein eventually you can understand your customer through your so-called sourcing. For now, many would say it's about data mining. You'll be surprised that uh, if, say, for example, for maybe for the last 2 3 days, you've been searching about you are looking for say uh, whatever a certain say you're looking for a a certain gadget, or maybe a cell phone. You've been searching for it for the last 3 days in the internet. Before you know it, you will be surprised that most of the so-called the materials that will pop up in your Facebook or whatever in your account would be something about cell phones. Everything about cell phones, cell phones, cell phones. Now you call that the so-called data mining. Computers, the users of internet, uh, they there would be some administrators of all these things. Like for example, in Facebook, they would know that okay, for this past how many days, most probably if you are searching for this, you are interested in this one, and therefore in your thread you will notice that there would be an increased material or an increased information about whatever you've been looking. Okay, so in the society, the social media means a convenient and efficient communication. This will foster convenient and efficient communication and the society per se. Um, Convenient and efficient communication through the social media. Mm. So you easily meet people and share ideas beyond your so-called geographic boundaries. So you can meet people from other countries and eventually share uh, ideas with them. In fact, this social media would bring um, people uh, who are of the same mindset in a certain group. So you will notice there would be in a social, if you look at your Facebook, there is a group there about maybe the owners of the so-called the Volks, the Beetle, the Volkswagen, or these are the group for the owners of a certain a certain camera, the Leica group, the Leica, or certain camera about the Nikon. So uh, this brings together those people of the same mindset. And at the down end, the downside of this would be the invasion of privacy. Um, One would be secondary to the published personal information. The photos that you see nowadays, before if you try to go to a certain place, you try to take picture and then upload it to your maybe social networking site, and yeah, that would eventually make you an easy prey for the so-called invasion of your privacy. And definitely one of the down end would be the addiction to the social networking site. If you notice, if like for example, in a so-called in a rainy day, wherein there will be the so-called cancellation of classes, if you start looking at your social media as early as 8 o'clock, you will not notice after some time, it's already 10 o'clock and you're still going through the rest of the messages. So definitely, some of these networking sites can really lead to addiction. Okay, so definitely, we are saying that from Gutenberg, there is the so-called development. Gutenberg paved the way in the so-called information age, and it is the so-called the modernization of information and communication process. This so-called development in the so-called information and communication is the power behind the so-called social evolution. Um, Now, because information, so with Gutenberg, he made information easily accessible because of the printed material, and eventually that paved the way in the so-called technological advancement in trying to modernize information and communication process, which eventually would be the so-called the fuel, the main mover, the prime mover for this social evolution. So, so what are the issues of so-called information age? So definitely, one would be we believe that information age has significantly improved our daily lives. Yes, it's true. It has benefited the society, and um, the so-called it. the online communities would be seen as better than the real communities. Um, in a sense, say for example, if you are in your so-called what's this, online selling, in an online selling, definitely many would earn good money in online selling. Why? Because even with a few number of say workers, so you don't need a salesperson, you don't need a physical shop. You have to be something online, and you send it. So delivery would be through your any of your so-called uh, delivery service, your Grab, your Lala Move, or whatever. That would make things a little bit better. So many are saying the online community would be a little bit, yeah, better than the real communities. Okay, so again, so those are the issues, you know. But then now, other issues about this this technological advancement brought about by the technological advancement in information and communication process. There is now this so-called notion that uh, there is um, an author who who says, is there really do why the future not need us? Are we really important in the future, or because of this technological advancement, eventually humans will be replaced by machines? Okay, so William Nelson Joy is the co-founder of the Sun Microsystem. He published an article entitled "Why the Future Doesn't Need Us." Uh, so his concept, his argument is that the most powerful 21st century technology would be in the field of robotics, genetic engineering, and nanotechnology. And these three are they are threatening to make humans an endangered species. So let's try to maybe to go through this article of William Nelson Joy, and to see whether do we have a future, or sorry, are we still needed in the future, or is it true that the future doesn't need us? So here, why the future doesn't need us? So again, William Joy is an American computer scientist and a chief scientist in Sun Microsystem. Uh, then he he has this thinking, and he warned the public of the so-called the rapid rise of technology. Now we can see the artificial intelligence trying to is being used in everything. The Chat GPT, and even the rest of the traffic lights would be controlled by artificial intelligence. Okay, so he he argued that the see, uh, technological advancement would not require large facilities or even rare materials. And with such, see, large facilities or even rare material, right? Because yeah, if you want to develop your so-called the robotics, you don't really need a very big facility. Um, and, and and because of this, because you only need some basic material, that makes that technology uh, to rise rapidly. So that thinking alone would make uh, humans maybe a what a potential target of this rising technology, especially in the world of robotics. So there are three areas wherein he focused on, and these are in the area of genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics. Now, so in genetics or genetic engineering, Joy mentioned that genetics can reprogram our own biology. Uh, See, nowadays, the gene therapy uh, versus genetic engineering. So, you've heard of your gene therapy or even genetic engineering, the splicing of the DNA and everything. So, the gene therapy, uh, they are eventually, before they're conceptualized, the concept of gene therapy is to correct some genetic defects and eventually prevent the so-called, or to prevent or to cure genetic diseases. But which is a very noble goal. But uh, if they are not controlled, it can be used in an unethical manner. Now, what about genetic engineering? Genetic engineering aims to modify the genes in order to enhance the capability of the organism beyond what is normal. Genetic engineering. So, if we look at the so-called the agricultural products, uh, it's not really impossible to think that you can come up with a say a papaya that would be as big as a basketball ball. Hmm? It is not really unimaginable now to say, um, well, you see, I want a certain, say, I want a certain fruit that will not have any seed. So, see, you now have your seedless grapes. Um, this all this genetic engineering can eventually enhance or maybe change uh, the organism, or it can also enhance capabilities of the organism beyond what is normal. Now, how about in nanotechnology, the second area? In nanotechnology, the nanotechnology allows us to manipulate matter at a so-called molecular and atomic scale. Nanotechnologies manipulate matter. See, the COVID, during the COVID pandemic, the vaccines used in the so-called COVID, the vaccine against COVID-19, uh, would now include the so-called nanotechnology. This, the mRNA um, technology on coming up with the vaccine, that of the Pfizer and the Moderna would use the so-called nanotechnology. This technology would promise scientific advancement in especially in the area of medicine. Now, likewise it also promises some advancement in the consumer product, in energy, in materials, and even in manufacturing product. Materials in manufacturing product. Take note, the usual bulletproof that we know of uh, would need to be what a little bit bulky, but now there is really a bulletproof. So if you watch the John Wick, the John Wick series or the whatever series of movie, they are now using a bulletproof, a Kevlar um, that will not be that bulky. Okay, so that is nanotechnology. Now, what about in the areas of robotics? The areas of robotics will create greater than human non-biological intelligence. Greater than human non-biological intelligence. Okay, so the, the 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 early concept of robotics, in fact, robotics is described as the branch of engineering involves that involves the conception, design, manufacture, and operation of robots. Okay, and the objective is to create intelligent machine that can assist, see the term, that can assist human in a variety of ways. So definitely that the robot should be an assistant, should be your assistant. Okay, so you see in Japan there are the so-called the robots that can really clean your place, can serve certain maybe coffee, food, or whatever. Is yeah, to assist, just to assist. But again, if you create, if you create some robot that would have intelligence greater than that of human, maybe that will pose danger for human existence. So, again, so these are some of the arguments of William Joy. He cited the ability of nanobots to self-replicate, which could quickly get out of control, like uh, the rapid increase in computer power. See, before, notice that see now your typical cell phone, smartphone, it's very light, very small, yet it would have increased capability. Even your there are many things. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, and see another point, another fear of William Joy is that he was also concerned that computers will eventually become more intelligent than humans. So you typical the rise of the machines, the just like that of the Terminator movie, that the humans versus the machines, the robots. Okay. So again, uh, certain things that we have to at least think. Have you ever wondered if the future is still needed? Um, have you ever wondered if human will still exist in the future? Definitely, that it should be. It should be that. That should be the case. That should be the case. And but then, uh, we are saying we want to so-called attain immortality, yet we are all designed to die. The part of the design of the body is that it will grow, grow old, and eventually die. Diba? That's part of the developmental process. But partly we are saying we want to attain certain type of immortality. So another thing to think about is that uh, they're saying, see, the atomic bomb during the so-called the Nagasaki, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They're saying they're created for protection, really to stop the war. The Americans were convinced that okay, let's drop the atomic bomb in Japan so that it will stop the war. But yeah, maybe that that serves the purpose then. But now it is now used for to kill people. The genetically modified organisms, the GMO, it was conceptualized to increase crop production and eventually to decrease the so-called the pesticide utilization. Uh, Definitely to benefit mankind. But this genetically modified organism open that doors or avenue to create novel species or certain species of bacteria that would be that would eventually harm mankind. See that COVID-19, the strain, um, is an example of the one of the so-called repercussions of all these studies, genetic studies. And what about the super intelligent robot? Maybe these super intelligent robots will be able to make copies to replicate and eventually replicate whatever humans can do. So eventually, what will be the result? It will pave the way for human extinction. So even the so-called entry of all these artificial intelligence and everything, there must be some control, ethical controls for such, ethical and even the control for it, so as not to succumb into such so-called paving the way for human extinction. Okay, so but can that be what would be the thing that we can do now? According to some of the suggestion, we continue to develop technology, but with great caution. Uh, there must be so-called ruled by ethical humans and not robots. There must be a the so-called ethical control on all these technological advancements. Let's live our lives with love and compassion for others. Love and compassion for others. Eventually, this will develop the so-called notion of universal responsibility. Universal notion of responsibility. Taking care of each other. We must know the so-called the real meaning of happiness. Uh, the real meaning of happiness without any material things or the so-called power of knowledge. real meaning. So with such, so we can start to ask the question: do we really want to seek knowledge? But then, can we pay the price of discovering it? Seek not Try to seek knowledge, but can we pay the price of discovering it? Like for example, a typical family, a typical newlywed who cannot bear a child, eventually will undergo series of fertility workup, to a point that this couple will be um, branded, or will be told by the so-called geneticist, or the fertility clinic, that you see, you uh you are genetically incompatible. Whatever you do, you will not bear a child, because there's incompatibility. Well, with such, does that mean that um, you part ways? If you are a married couple, then let's part ways. So, do we seek knowledge, and are we ready to pay the price for discovering it? Do we seek the truth, but can we face reality? So, uh, if, if we tend to invent without great caution, but um, are we prepared for the so-called mass destruction? So, this last statement here, we want to invent without great caution, but are we prepared for mass destruction? A very simple would be, see, in terms of cell phone technology, um, cell phone technology, in 2, 3 years, the most would be 5 years. Whatever cell phone you're using, it's already considered not really that obsolete, but already not of antiquity. So you really have to change, so as to so that you can go for all this technological advancement. Even in your gadgets, your computer, yeah, normally all these computer devices only be good for about 5 years. Because more than that, maybe your system cannot uh, will not support the newer application. So if you still have your, say for example, your computer during your high school, you think you can still use it now? No, because the hardware in that computer of yours will not be able to support whatever applications you have now. Okay, so maybe that's about information age, from Gutenberg to social media, plus also plus of the issues. I think that's my last slide. Thank you very much for listening.